Please go ahead. Yes.
When we first started, in the front of the building here, there was really nothing but rhododendrons. There were, in the corners, there were these uh, shrubs, the hedges, and then there was grass, and that was it. There were more, I think when they were planted, they planted 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 rhododendrons together. But many of them died because, for many reasons. Number one, some of them are getting much too much sun. They were not getting enough water, and they were also, when the gardeners came to work on the grass, they would dump lime on them, and lime is very bad for rhododendrons because they need acid soil, and lime is for grass. Grass needs basic soil. So when you have these things, you have to be very careful about the way you feed them, and a lot of times that's not done. There was another plant that was also planted among these called an arborvitae, and they all died. I think all of them died. They were just not in the right place, and everything was planted very close together.
Wow. So sometimes there is potential vulnerabilities. It doesn't always work.
Yeah. But everything else that you see here is stuff that we put in.
Terrific.
I want to say something else. There are ground covers here that, here's one called an epimedium. It's an evergreen ground cover. This is a perennial geranium, which is another ground cover, and these are liriopes. That is another ground cover, and there's a lot of liriopes across the street at the waterfall building.
Which one are the liriopes?
These are the liriopes.
Oh, those are liriopes. So what's the advantage of them? They seem to thrive.
They thrive. They kind of they keep growing bigger and bigger, and they take up more and more room, and so they'll absolutely, I would say within 3 years, they're going to totally fill in this area, and you won't even see the ground next to them.
Amazing. We'll come back to film every year.
Yeah. And the reason that we have so many of these is that we got them all free, and we got them from my son's house, who has a front yard. And out of maybe 4 or 5 of these, we have now probably 100 of them throughout this co-op, in front of, all over the place.
Wow.
And that's also true of these geraniums. There's a few different kinds of these geraniums, and they're all good ground covers, and some of them last all winter as well.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just briefly, do you have community members help you out, other people in the building?
So we do. We have a garden committee, and we meet during the season from March through November. We meet at least once a week, except when the weather is really bad, and when it's very hot, we don't go out. And we don't go out in the pouring rain. We'll work in the drizzle. But,
Neat. That's very good. Good. Under all the conditions.
So this is a combination of shrubs, ground cover. This is another kind of ground cover. These are spreading. Can't think of the name now, but the evergreen, needled evergreens, junipers. I think they're mostly junipers. And this is another plant that I took from my son's house. It was probably this big when I took it, a couple of inches. This is called an autumn fern sedum. And it comes back every year, and it gets bigger and bigger, and then it gives off many, many offspring, and so we have untold numbers of them all over them. And that's one of the things I like to have, is plants that are going to keep giving.
Oh. That's a great idea. It thrives and it lasts for years. Look at this. Look how
down
beautiful.
The block a little bit, we have one of the people who lives in the co-op, who lives in the building across the street, is now growing herbs and I think zucchini and other squash, and tomatoes.
Terrific.
Yeah.
So the Brooklyn is a thriving agricultural site.
Yeah.
Is these yours, or these little potted plants here?
All these belong to this somebody who lives in our court.
Cool.
He wanted a place to do this, and he didn't have a terrace. We have terraces.
This is terrific. So you guys took this shared space, and instead of it just being grass or something generic, you really have made it bloom.
Yeah.
You must feel very proud when you stand here.
And we've gotten donations from many people.
Wow.
Yeah, like that spiky looking stuff. German irises that we got from somebody who lives on Foster Avenue.
Right.
And we got Siberian irises that have come from somebody else who didn't want them anymore.
Okay.
And so we that's one of the ways we keep costs down is to to network with other gardeners. That's the thing about gardeners. You're constantly exchanging plants and giving plants away.
Kind of like the roots are a network underground in nature, so people network also in gardening.
Right. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So there's an informal exchange. And how do you guys keep in touch? I imagine it's just knowing each other and using the telephone. Right. You don't need any high tech. You just
know each
talk.
other. When we visit each other, we constantly
brilliant.
Want to see other people's gardens. And,
that's beautiful, because I must tell you, in our day and age, whenever someone has something they want to do with the group, it's always a WhatsApp thread, a Facebook group. But sometimes it's refreshing that we don't need all that. We just talk to each other and we just do it.
Well, what's happened with this building is that it's brought people together. The people who live here. And people have donated all kinds of things. There's somebody who donates mulch. There's somebody who donated a tree that was on her terrace because she inherited the terrace from somebody else, and the tree got too big and she couldn't take care of it, so she said, here's a tree and I'll show it to you. It's a beautiful maple tree.
Very neat.
And people are constantly wanting to plant things outside. Sometimes I say yes, sometimes I say no, depending on whether or not I think that they're going to be practical.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's good. Wait, so you have a leadership role. You tell people what might or might not work in this setting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it's all community-based. It's the consensus. Are there any things here you want to show us? These look beautiful. What are these purple flowers?
So these purples are another kind of geranium, perennial geranium.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are they hard to cultivate, or are they?
I actually bought these. These didn't come from my son's house. They don't proliferate as much as these other kinds of geraniums. They just wander all over the place.
Right. Great. I love the colors here. Very pretty.
Yeah.
Are these roses? They look like roses.
These are roses.
Wow. Just have a rose bush.
Those three
just
little
thriving
plants there that I don't know of, I've never heard of before. My doorman gave them to me as a present. Put in the ground here.
Terrific.
And that's lavender.
Lavender.
Yeah.
So this is where the famous lavender eye color comes from.
Yeah.
This looks like an artichoke. I don't know if it actually is, but is it an artichoke? It looks like one.
No, it's a sedum.
A sedum.
Yeah. Artichokes grow on big stalks.
Oh, okay, fine.
They, yeah.
Isn't that interesting? Beautiful. I love it. Okay. Terrific. You can see there's a lot of love here. I love the rock garden. It's very aesthetic.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. Do we want to go? Is this sort of?
Walk down the street. And
let's go down the street.
Building.
Perfect. Let's go.
It's how people.
I love this. I love these rock borders. These are beautiful. Oh, these are trees. These are branches.
So these are branches. So as branches have been cut down from these trees, especially early on, not the ones that were done this year, we used them to demarcate the area, especially because we didn't want people just walking in there.
Terrific.
To show that, because when we started doing everything was much smaller, and it was hard to recognize something that was actually intended to be a garden rather than just miscellaneous group of things. So
Okay.
yeah.
I see
Perfect.
ferns here and around also. You don't
Yeah,
you
so
don't
these
always
are-
see in the garden.
Yeah, these are sensitive ferns, and they all started off in that building over there in their courtyard, and they were donated by a man who lived there, who has since he's living in a kind of a rehab situation right now. And when he comes home, he's going to be amazed to see how they wandered all over the place. How many of them there are. That's a native plant, the sensitive fern.
Neat.
Yeah.
So it's a native plant. That means it has a better chance of thriving because it's adapted to local conditions.
It does, but local conditions can sometimes be tricky because local could be very local. They might
Right.
be good for one kind of locality, but not
Oh.
for another, depending on the circumstances, the amount
Neat.
of sun, the kind of soil.
Right. So the conditions
pollution.
matter.
Yeah,
Even it's
yeah.
not just being in the area, the
Absolutely.
geographical region.
For example, one of the big problems that we have in New York City about growing food in gardens, in the ground, is that the ground is very contaminated with the stuff that they used to put in oil. I can't think of, you know what it is.
Yeah, toxins, etc.
Additives. I'm not sure.
Industrial
No,
refuse, industrial.
Lead.
Oh, lead.
Lead.
Okay.
Lead, yeah, okay.
Right.
So lead is in the soil, and it's in the paint. So anything that's painted paint chips in the ground that fall into the ground. So most people who garden, who want to garden with food, have to test their soil first, or they just buy soil and they put it in, barrels, or they substitute it for what exists. But you can't use the soil that's there.
Okay.
It's been
Very interesting.
Nice to hear you have largely moss is growing.
Yes,
Right? You don't have a very
yes.
shaded area here,
Yes,
so the
yes,
moss does better.
Yes, yeah. It's not only because it's shaded, but also because we do have an irrigation system. When it's not working, the moss disappears.
Oh, so the moss is getting the irrigation that
Right.
seeps out.
Yeah.
I see. Right.
That's very smart. Another way to use up the water so nothing goes to waste.
Yeah.
You know, when I throw away a Poland Spring bottle with 4 ounces of water, I'm like, how priceless is this water for people who need it? And
Right.
how much do we dispose of? We think we have so much, we need so much, and yet we have so much abundance.
Well, many, many years ago, I lived with somebody, a student who was living with me and my family, and and in the kitchen, when she would run the water faucet to wash dishes, she would use she was from the Middle East, she would use very, very little. Usually people turn it on all the way and water comes, and she would just use what she needed,
Brilliant.
because that was her
Her
background.
culture.
She knew, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
tell you, future generations will be shocked at how much we wasted.
Yeah,
Like,
oh, yeah.
there's so much you can synthesize now that we're developing biological materials that'll just biodegrade back into the soil. That's the real future. But look how much we've already used.
Yeah, and again, I just want to point out that except for the rhododendrons here, everything in here has been put in since 2000.
Fantastic. Look how it's flourishing. Look at this. All this is since 2000 and what? 2000, the year 2000. As old as a century.
Yeah, 2000 we didn't get much done.
Okay.
Because of the pandemic, so it's really 2 years old.
Oh, you mean 2020?
I mean,
2020?
I'm sorry, not 2000. 2021.
Gotcha. That's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Don't worry about it. We're all getting used to the new millennium. Look at this. And ferns. Here are some ferns.
Yeah, these are special ferns called autumn ferns, and they
Yeah.
last all winter.
Wow.
And then at the very end of the winter, actually into the spring, they die back and they come up again. You see the fiddleheads,
Beautiful.
and I can't help. There are certain weeds that I just can't watch grow. One is an oak tree.
Yeah, they're very aggressive.
Yeah. We have oak trees across the street there, and the seeds just fall all over the place. So try to get the roots. Sometimes I don't get that far, but just taking the leaves are enough.
Wait,
You're
hold
not
on.
gonna-
There's a lot of transportation today. Wait a minute. Wait for the sound. All right, sorry. What were you saying?
No, I'm just saying that I try to take it out by the root, but sometimes
Right. That makes sense.
without it too, I'm not so good.
Yeah, it takes a little, right. Depends on the physical condition.
So this is the building that's exactly the same as mine.
Wow. Beautiful.
Here are some flowers that are. That
I love these
attract,
flowers.
Pollinators, right? You have
Yes.
cone
Oh, yeah,
flowers.
yeah.
What are these called?
Cone flowers.
Wow. And what's the benefit of these? They're beautiful. Look at them. Look how proud and prominent they are.
Well, they do get pollinators, right? So you may even see some bees coming to them.
They have a perfect surface for pollinators to stick to. Right.
Pollinators can use some help right now. So
Brilliant.
It's going to have these.
Amazing. There's a real. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah. It's truly lavish.
Yeah. And again, we didn't plant all of these. A lot of them have, proliferated. We probably had 3 of these and 3 of those. And,
Oh, you mean you
yeah.
plant them and then they naturally
and
reproduce?
that's right.
Beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
Very
Just-
nice.
Just the way when we planted this, it was probably this big, and now it's,
That's the idea, right?
yeah, that's the idea.
I love it. Wow, wonderful. Should we go down to the end? This is so pretty. It looks like a lush wonderland from
Yeah.
from a lost reality.
And the other thing I want to point out is that when we started off, they had the exact same plants planted on that side and on this side, including these 2 trees, and I'll talk about them in a minute. These are crabapple trees. What they didn't know at the time is that crabapple gets a disease when it's. I'm not sure if I think it might be a fungus, and that migrates from crabapple trees to juniper bushes. This area was filled with juniper bushes, and it basically was killed in the process of killing these crabapple trees. That one was almost totally gone. This one, the gardener Stephen has applied various chemicals to it to keep it alive, but I think its days are numbered. And you can tell about that because see all those things that are growing off it on the bottom here?
Right.
The suckers. That's what happens when the tree is dying.
Wow.
Yeah. It tries to reproduce itself. It also gives off a lot of
Wait, this is
berries.
fascinating.
Yeah.
The tree here is dying, and the little saplings next to it are other trees of the same
Yes,
species.
yeah.
And it does that how? There's an instinctive, as it dies, it releases more seeds, I guess.
Well, those are growing out. Those are actually growing directly out of the roots.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And what causes them to grow out of the roots at a time like this?
I think they're.
I mean, in this condition,
I don't know. I can't tell
All
you.
right, well, let me ask you, what's the name of this type of tree? We'll look
This
it up.
is a crabapple tree.
Crabapple tree. Can you eat crab apples, by the way?
You can eat some crab apples. These are too small. and
Too
they're
small.
Really very,
So this is a
very-
crabapple tree, and as it's dying, here are its family. It's surrounded by its children, its offspring, reaching towards the sun to carry on. Beautiful.
And even over
That's sort of a
here-
metaphor.
Even over here,
Yes.
it's growing out of a root.
Brilliant.
But there are
Wow.
some places where it's actually growing out of from seeds.
So the lesson here, folks, is even if you're growing at a distance from your source, you might still have your roots in the ground. A message for all of us.
This
Look, I see more of them over there. Look, you can spot them. That's more the crabapple
right,
offspring.
That's right.
Beautiful. A community taking root.
Vera, you mentioned that some chemicals used in that particular tree, but in general, do you do this without pesticides?
Absolutely.
So-
It's one of the few chemicals that we use, and that's because people, when they bloom in the spring, they're really gorgeous, and people would be very upset if we just let them die, or
Right.
took them away. So we
Isn't it people would notice? You feel like there'd be a community reaction if they weren't here.
people have been noticing everything.
Really?
I can't walk down here without people saying things to me all the time. About
You're like
the
that's terrific. You're like a community organizer and catalyst.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that was what was going to happen, but people, I thought that some people would be interested, but I thought that most people would be indifferent. You know, they have their own things that they have to think about.
Right.
But no, people are really. I think it's
been a unifying factor.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Terrific. Wow.
So again, unlike the standard lawn, you do most of this without herbicides, without pesticides.
Right. Yeah.
And that's an important point.
Yeah, they can thrive without chemicals.
That's the reason that these ailanthus seedlings are growing, because there was an ailanthus tree right over here,
Right.
and there was another ailanthus tree by the building, and so these are still growing from seedlings from that tree. Some of the roots are still in the ground also, but I don't think that they're producing anything. I don't see anything growing out of roots, but these are all from seeds.
They're all from the tree.
Yeah,
Wow.
all from the tree that was taken out 2 years ago.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a remnant. Wow. Very pretty. Look at these. You can see the flowers blooming over there.
Yeah, so
How pretty.
those flowers are called helianthus.
What are they called?
Helianthus.
That's the yellow flowers over there.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow.
And they were planted by the garden.
Terrific.
And the grass that you have here, what is
That
that?
was also planted. It's a grass.
What's it called? Yeah, that looks very evocative. What is it called? Sorry.
It's a grass.
But it's a
grass.
But it's a planted grass.
It's a
Right.
planted
A
grass,
decorative
yes.
grass.
Yeah.
It looks like something you see growing in the dunes in the South Carolina. Fascinating. Wow, there's a real lushness here. It's very poetic. Maybe we should walk around this corner and just show us a few more things.
Thinking about a name that came to me, Terrace Botanical Gardens.
Oh,
I love it.
Don't you think?
Why not?
That is a botanical garden, it's a terrace. Something along those lines.
I agree.
Maybe if they can call that park their Pebble.
okay.
Right. And it gives us a connection to the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens. It sort of evokes
I
that.
mean, it's beautiful.
It is. I'm glad. Do you enjoy this?
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Every day I see a different flower, it's nature. And
Beautiful.
it's set up so beautifully, and it's all volunteer and everything.
Right.
It's great.
That must be terrific. I'm glad. It's nice to know the building really benefits from it.
I mean, it used to be a disaster.
You see an improvement, right? That's
This
terrific.
lady here, she's like a young
Oh,
woman now.
amazing. Absolutely. Terrific. Wow.
He's from
See?
Aus-
You've got a nice audience.
Yeah, he's from Australia.
Oh, really? I didn't even hear the accent.
Yeah.
That's funny. Terrific. Look at these little flowers here. These are pretty.
Yeah.
They look very
these
gossamer-like.
So these are marigolds. And they
Marigolds.
This,
Beautiful.
This over here. It was
Oh, the
planted-
little yellow one.
It
That
was
one.
planted by somebody who lives in the building.
Right. The yellow one is a marigold?
It's a marigold.
Oh, that's a marigold.
It's a-
Terrific.
It's just an annual.
Very pretty. And what are
scientific-
these? These are.
So this is, I don't know what these red ones are.
Okay.
These red flowers. This is more of that sedum that I showed you about that's all over the place.
Sorry, what's it called?
Sedum.
Sedum. Sedum. Right. This is what flowers do.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's more of the And this is another kind of grass.
Uh huh.
It's called Hakonakloa, which is a Japanese grass. And it thrives. It's just a wonderful grass. It moves all over the place, and very soon we're going to have to take out some of the edges of it and plant it some other place.
Neat.
But your source for the plants are multiple different sources, right? You don't have
Right.
one particular source, but it could be individuals, it could be purchases,
Right.
so different sources.
Yeah, yeah. Most of the shrubs have been purchases, but some of the and plants like the eucharis are purchases also, and these things called a stilby.
What are they called? These
a stilby.
A stilby.
Over
Okay.
there.
Okay.
It's kind of, this is the second stage of their flowering. They were either red or purple or white.
Beautiful.
And now they're going to seed.
Beautiful. Wow. Look at these.
Holly.
Holly,
That's holly, the famous holly from the song. And tell us what those. We might have to finish in a minute or two, but tell us about those blue flowers.
So
What are
blue
those?
Flowers, those are hydrangeas.
Hydrangeas.
We've put in a lot of hydrangeas.
Right. They seem to thrive here, right?
Yes, yes. They're
Terrific.
yeah.
All right. I think we've done pretty good here. Anything else you want to show us before we close our
This is
program
called
for today?
Callirrhoe, and it's a native plant. I
Polywell.
know that. I think these helianthus might be native as well. I don't keep track of it, so
That's okay. Are those hydrangeas also?
that's a hydrangea also.
Fine.
Yeah,
So there's different varieties, different
Yeah.
colors. Beautiful. Wow. Okay.
And,
I love it. How do you feel looking out here? I see it's had a real effect.
Oh yeah, no, it's made. Can I tell you, it makes me happy, and it seems to
Terrific.
make
How-
almost everybody else happy.
There's a bee. We could just get a shot of the bee to show that there's some pollinators.
Yes,
coming
look at
in.
that. There's a
That's fun
bee.
to do.
Hello, bee. You're a friend of humanity. There's a bee thriving and doing its job for all of us. Look how pretty. Look at the instinct. It goes from flower to flower. What's better than that? Look at that. He's just working away. We're getting our money's worth from this bee. He's doing his job. Terrific. Let's hope we all do as well for the world as this bee is. Keep going, little bee.
Spectacular.
What was that, sorry?
That evergreen over there. It's
Oh.
the mountain laurel.
Doing well. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've done a lot today, yeah?
So we just thank
Yeah.
just thank Vera for
Yeah, thank you, Vera.
Okay.
This has been fantastic, and we really feel like this is an inspiration for everyone else who's thinking of doing these gardens.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Right. How many people help you, by the way?
Well, we have a regular group of about 5 people that come out almost every Sunday.
Okay.
And
And they-
when we started during the pandemic, we had a lot of people. We had about 20 people.
Wow. Okay.
Because
Get outside.
people weren't going to work. They really weren't going anyplace. Everybody was here, and so they
Sounds like it was comforting to them.
Yeah, and then little by little, people went to back to work, and they went back to their habitual ways. But some of them remained garden. Most of the people who are gardening now on the committee are retired, but there are people who are teachers who are off for the summer, or they can.
Very neat. Okay, well, this has been an amazing trip through your garden. We really enjoy it. We want to thank Vera so much. Thank you. We'll have to come here again. And that's about it from here. Please tune into our channel, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and please join us again for more videos. Thanks a lot and have a great day. All right, David, thank you too.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for Vera. And we'll look forward to seeing you again.
Yep.
Bye.
All right, take care now, folks. Bye-bye.